There are moments in life when something inside us knows, before our mind can explain why. You meet someone for the first time, and something in you softens or tightens. You walk into a room, and even before a word is spoken, you can feel the tension in the air. You choose a road or decide not to, and later, you realize that quiet inner nudge saved you from something unseen. We call it a gut feeling, a hunch, a sense. But Carl Jung called it something deeper, intuition. He wrote that intuition is perception via the unconscious. It isn't magic, it's the ancient intelligence of your whole being, whispering through symbols, sensations, sudden insights. It's how your soul tries to guide your conscious mind. But here's the secret Carl Jung discovered: intuition doesn't shout. It speaks in whispers, in dreams, in quiet discomfort when something feels off, and in unexpected peace when something feels right. So many of us were taught to silence that voice, to worship logic, to justify every feeling with a reason. But as Carl Jung saw, the mind alone can't see the whole picture of life. We need both, the thinking mind and the knowing soul. But how do you tell the difference between intuition and fear? Between a real inner knowing and the echo of an old wound? Let's begin there. Carl Jung believed our psyche moves through four main functions: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuiting. Thinking analyzes. Feeling values. Sensing experiences through the body. And intuition perceives possibilities, what could be, not just what is. For Carl Jung, intuition was the bridge to the unconscious, a way of seeing with the heart what the eyes can't yet perceive. He noticed that intuitive people often sense patterns or meanings long before they can explain them. It's the artist who suddenly knows what to paint before the image exists. The friend who feels that something is wrong, even when everything looks fine. The scientist who has a sudden insight that later proves true. Intuition, Carl Jung said, isn't superstition, it's unconscious intelligence. Your mind is always collecting more information than your awareness can handle. Tiny cues, in tone, posture, rhythm, energy, all feed into that deep inner processor. And sometimes, the result surfaces as a whisper: yes, go there. Or no, not this. It isn't always mystical, it's human. Yet Carl Jung also believed intuition connects us to something beyond the personal mind, what he called the collective unconscious, a shared sea of symbols and archetypes. It's why the same symbols appear in myths, in dreams, and in art across cultures. The same wisdom, speaking through many mouths. When you get that sudden knowing, a flash that feels larger than you, you might be touching that universal intelligence that Carl Jung spent his life mapping. But intuition can also be confused with fear, projection, or desire. Carl Jung warned that the unconscious doesn't only speak truth, it also holds our unhealed stories. That's why self-knowledge matters. If you sense danger where there is none, it may be your past echoing through the present. If you feel drawn to someone who is wrong for you, it might not be intuition, it might be your wound, calling for recognition. To truly trust intuition, Carl Jung said, we must first make peace with our own shadows. Because the clearer the inner mirror, the truer the reflection. So how does intuition actually speak? And how can you tell when it's your soul, not your fear, guiding you? That's what we'll explore next. How does intuition speak, if it has no words? Carl Jung believed, it speaks through the subtle world. Through dreams. Through sensations in the body. Through synchronicities, those strange coincidences that feel too meaningful to ignore. Have you ever dreamt of someone you hadn't seen in years, and the next day they appear in your life again? Or felt uneasy before a decision, then later discovered why your hesitation was right? That is how intuition whispers. It doesn't reason, it reveals. Carl Jung wrote that the unconscious communicates in symbols and feelings. The rational mind uses language, but the deeper mind paints. So intuition comes as images, as moods, as a quiet pull in one direction and resistance in another. You might feel your stomach tighten, or a calm settle over your chest. You might see a repeating sign, a bird, a number, a phrase that gently reminds you you're on the right path. These are not accidents, Jung said. They are conversations between your conscious life and your deeper self. When you ignore these small signals, life often gets louder. A mistake repeats. A relationship drains you. You lose your spark. Until finally, you stop and whisper, "Something inside me knew. I just didn't listen." Carl Jung often wrote about this inner conversation. He called it active imagination, a dialogue between the ego and the unconscious. To him, listening to intuition was not passively waiting for miracles, but participating in your own unfolding. You write down your dreams. You listen to your body. You notice coincidences. You allow images to rise and speak. And slowly, the language of intuition becomes familiar. If you feel these words, if you've ever trusted a quiet voice within you, remember to like this video, and subscribe if you wish to walk deeper with me through the work of Carl Jung and the wisdom of the soul. Your presence here truly helps this small space grow. Thank you. Intuition, Carl Jung said, is not opposed to logic. It's simply another way of knowing. Science now calls it unconscious pattern recognition. Your brain gathers thousands of details you don't consciously register: faces, tones, rhythms, energy, and then delivers the summary as a feeling. But Jung went further. He believed these moments can also come from the collective unconscious, the wider sea of human experience. That's why artists, scientists, and dreamers sometimes discover the same truth at the same time, without ever meeting. It's the psyche reaching beyond itself. When you have a creative idea that feels like it doesn't belong only to you, Jung would say, the unconscious is trying to express something through you. Yet intuition requires humility. Carl Jung warned that the moment you try to own it, it slips away. It doesn't serve the ego. It serves the whole. That's why intuition often leads you not to success first, but to self-confrontation. It asks, are you being truthful? Are you aligned with what you say you want? Are you willing to act even when you can't yet prove why? To live intuitively is to walk by a light you can't always see. It takes courage. Because intuition doesn't promise safety, it promises authenticity. Carl Jung believed that every person carries within them a guiding symbol, an image of the self that quietly leads us toward wholeness. Intuition is the thread connecting you to that inner image. When you follow it, life begins to feel more meaningful, not necessarily easier, but alive with purpose. Sometimes that guidance arrives gently, and sometimes through crisis. A breakup, an illness, a sudden ending. It may feel like chaos, but Jung saw those moments as invitations. The unconscious breaking through the surface, asking you to listen. When everything falls apart, intuition becomes a compass, not pointing outward, but inward. You start hearing that quiet voice again. This is not punishment. This is awakening. And once you begin to trust it, you realize intuition is not a special gift. It's your natural way of knowing. It's the part of you that has always been guiding you home. In the next part, we'll explore the tension Carl Jung called logic versus intuition. Why our culture learned to trust the mind and doubt the heart, and how we can bring both back into balance. We live in a world that celebrates logic. We measure. We analyze. We plan every step. And still, so many of us feel lost. Carl Jung saw this coming. He wrote that modern life has grown deaf to the voice of the soul. We are trained to explain everything, but rarely to listen. Logic gives direction, but intuition gives meaning. When they work together, life feels whole. When they fight, we become anxious, divided, unsure of our own hearts. Have you ever reasoned yourself into a decision that felt wrong? The job that looked perfect on paper but drained your spirit? The relationship that made sense but never felt safe? That quiet tension is your intuition trying to speak. Carl Jung believed the task of maturity is not to silence reason or worship instinct, but to unite them. The conscious mind and the unconscious must become partners. He called this harmony the process of individuation, the journey toward wholeness. Intuition guides that path like a candle in the dark. It doesn't show the whole road, just the next true step. And that is enough. The more you trust that inner light, the more life begins to flow. Synchronicities appear. Right people cross your path. What felt forced starts to unfold naturally. Jung saw this not as coincidence but as alignment, the outer world reflecting your inner state. When the inner voice and the outer life agree, there is peace. But when we ignore it, life keeps teaching through discomfort and repetition until we finally listen. You can practice listening again. Each day, sit quietly for a moment. Ask yourself simple questions. What feels heavy? What feels light? What makes my heart open? What makes it close? Your body always answers first. Jung often said the soul speaks through images, but the body speaks through feeling. If your chest relaxes, if your breath deepens, that's a yes. If it tightens, that's a no. Over time, you start to recognize the language of your own wisdom. If this journey with Carl Jung is helping you reconnect with your intuition, remember to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next reflection. Your support helps this space stay alive, and it truly means the world. Carl Jung believed intuition is not only guidance, it is a form of love. Because when you live intuitively, you live in relationship with your soul. You no longer chase answers outside yourself. You begin to trust that what you seek is already within. That is why Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." When you look inside, you begin to remember. You remember that every ending is a doorway. Every silence is an answer. Every feeling is a message. And that beneath the noise of your thoughts there is a still place that has always known what is true for you. That is intuition, not a sound in your ears but a pulse in your being. It leads you back to the life that fits your soul. So the next time you feel a whisper, don't rush to explain it away. Pause. Listen. Trust that inner knowing that Carl Jung spent his life illuminating. It is the compass of your authentic self. It is your bridge between the seen and unseen. It is the quiet truth that will never mislead you if you dare to follow. Thank you for being here with me. Take care of your heart. And may love always guide your path.